Hello everybody, welcome back to Papa's Saw Shop. I'm Papa, and today I wanted to show you what we just got done building here at Papa's Saw Shop. So this is an MS660 Clone saw. Now for anyone that doesn't know what a clone saw is, basically looks just like an original name brand saw. Now you can get clone saws in steel, Husqvarna, and Echo. I believe those are the three. But this is a steel MS660. Now we can do clone saws all the way from climbing saws all the way up to the 880s. They just started making 880s available. Kind of want to discuss a few things about these. Okay, first of all, if you're a hardcore steel person and nothing but name brand is going to make you happy, you probably don't want to see this. Okay, I'm not going to tell you that this is just as good as a steel saw, because there are definitely some deficiencies in a clone saw. Okay, but you got to dig deep. And one thing that I say all the time to people that have me build saws: it doesn't necessarily matter what this case says out here. It matters the caliber of the person building it. And so, pat myself on the back a little bit, I've had 30 years of experience. And so there's 30 years of experience inside this plastic casing. Now, let me go through some of that with you. So let's go through some of the obvious things that you'll notice right off the bat. Okay, when you take a look at a clone saw, first of all, you'll notice in the front, which is just out of camera view here, there's no serial number on these guys, because there's no tracking or tracing on them. It's just a copy. So you can't really copy a serial number on an original saw. So there's no serial number. So if that's important to you, now the little things that you'll notice right off the bat from looking, you'll notice that there is no steel insignia. Now we can put one on there for you. It's got holes for it. I can get a steel plate and slap it on there for a few bucks, and it'll look and taste just like a steel. But yeah, there's no markings on any of these. On any piece of anywhere, it doesn't say any name brand whatsoever. That would be copyright infringement, all that kind of stuff. So the other thing that you'll notice, now on this guy here, this has a different handle. So I put different handles on these on purpose when available. Okay, I'm not a big fan of the clone handles. All right, now if you put an authentic steel handle on a clone saw, you have to remember that the chain brake is not going to work as efficiently as it would on a regular saw. So what you'll have to do, and this is kind of cheesy, all right, but what this saw will have to go through, this one in particular, it'll have to be the chain brake will have to break in a little bit, and then, but when you pull this back, you hear it click right there, but it's actually hitting the bar when it clicks. And so you almost got to hold this thing back while you're cutting. And from what I've heard, you cut with it for a few tankfuls, and then that little quirk is gone. That it wears things down enough where that quirk is gone. But you don't notice that on an authentic steel, but you will notice it on this one with this authentic steel handle. Now if you put the regular handle on it, there's a little bit of difference in the handle from steel than there is the aftermarket. And so the steel is a little bit thicker handle, and it doesn't have that much of a give. So you can hear it where it clicks right there, and it's right at the handle. It's just right there. So there's that. So there's a little bit of a break-in period on the chain brake itself. This guy right here, this is a little different. It's just a vent, just to channel air, and I would say it's not hugely important. I've seen plenty of saws that doesn't have this, but on a steel, this is rubber, and on these clone saws, these are like some kind of a plastic thing. I don't know exactly what kind of material that is, but it's like a soft plastic kind of stuff. So so that's different. I keep checking behind me because we're open today, so I got customers sometime coming in. The other thing that you'll notice, okay, let's get down to the basic stuff. Okay, the case. Okay, everyone asks me, is the engine itself different? Yes and no. Okay. Is it more susceptible to breakage and cracking? Yes. Yes, I believe it is. If you're the kind of guy or person who tosses your saw in the back of your truck, and you don't have a good habit of just setting things down and you're just throwing them in, or you're throwing them around the shop or whatever, this is probably not going to hold up. This girl is just not going to take that kind of abuse. Where a steel case, I believe, I don't know for sure, but I believe that the steel case is a bit heavier. Now, is this one going to break from running? Is it going to get overheated? And no, you don't have to worry about any of that. That'll be fine. But our warranty on these are less because of the way the case feels to me. It has nothing else to do with how it feels when I hold a steel case in my hand to a clone case in my hand. The difference in how those feel makes me say, this is not as heavy. So take that or leave it. Okay. Now, the other important part. Okay, and I believe I still have them here. But the screws that come with these, the assembling screws that come with this saw, throw them away. We do not use the assembly screws that come with these saws. We have our own hardened screws that we put in here. And again, when I always tell people, when you buy a saw from us, okay, when you buy a saw from Papa's Saw Shop, you're not just buying a brand of saw. You're buying a Papa's Saw Shop saw. Okay, I've got 30 years in the business. Okay, so there's 30 years of experience tucked inside of this plastic. All right, so if you're going to buy one of these online and you're just going to put one of these together in your garage and you say, you think that'll hold up? My answer is no. My answer is no. I wouldn't buy that thing from you for $5. I wouldn't give you $5 for it. And it's not that I'm the last of the great builders or anything like that. If you've been building for a while and you can say, okay, well, I don't like the way this is, but I can add my own alteration to that while I'm building. Okay, now you got my attention. And that's what's in here. That's what you got to keep in mind when you're buying a clone saw. When you're buying any saw, but especially when you're buying something like this. Okay, if you're just using this as a high school project, or you just want to see what it's like to build a chainsaw, it just is what it is. Okay. Now, would I personally own one of these that I build? You know what? I'm going to buy one of these for myself. I've put a couple of these together, and so far I've been very, very impressed. If you're just somebody that's just needs a big saw every now and then, for the price, these things are where it's at. These are good little saws. So let's talk about the handles, the tank, the inside parts, the components. So when I put the seals and the bearings in, first of all, I don't use the original bearings. Pull the bearings out, put my own bearings in it, put my own seals in it. I don't know where these bearings come from. I don't know where these seals come from. So I can feel the case. I can see how things are. If you're building one of these, you want to go through the entire case, examine every single thing, and I've got a pair of thick goggles up here. I can never find anything when I'm making a video, but anyway, I've got a pair of big old thick goggles that make me look like a real dork when I'm building these, and I go through everything like I'm going under a magnifying glass. So we carefully inspect every single thing. Their quality control in these things probably not as good as what you're going to find, for this saw anyway, at Steel. So you've got to be the quality control when you're putting it together. You've got to keep that in mind, that this came right off of the assembly with no quality control. And if you're not the quality control, then there is none. And so that's one of the things that we do here, is that we go through every single part of this with a fine-tooth comb, magnifying glass, the whole works. So let me start from the bottom. Okay, so you got the case. We use the original gasket, and we put a sealant on both sides of the gasket when we seal that case together. Bearings, like I say, are not the original bearings. We use separate bearings for those, and the bearings that come with this saw, we generally save those for outside projects or something, or maybe my granddaughter's metal art or something to that effect. Seals are original Steel seals. We don't use their seals. And when we put the head on, the head gets sealed. So generally on a head, I'll just trust that the case is going to be okay. I just put the gasket on there, call it good. On these guys, I put a sealant on both sides of the gasket, just to make sure, because I can't tell if that case has a little bit of a warpage or not in there. So if there is, that little bit of seal will help seal on that gasket. So we put the head on, examine the head carefully, and now I'm gonna throw something out there that might tickle some nerves. When you're talking about the top end of a saw, I don't care where you get it from. I can literally show you numbers of, lots of number of top ends that have a name brand stamped on the top end. Throw it on the saw, trust that their quality control did everything right, and that thing blows up the first damn time you run it. So just because it's got a fancy name on the side of that head doesn't mean anything. Okay, what it means is, again, the person putting that top end on the saw. Look at it, examine it, make sure that it's good. So anyway, we do that. Like I said, the screws that come with these things, throw them. And especially the head screws. I don't use those. I have a hardened steel head screw that we put in there. Also, I seal those screws down, and so there's guaranteed of no vacuum leaks. The muffler, if you put the muffler and carburetor next to the carburetor up to a Zama carburetor or a Walbro, and you put the muffler up next to an original Steel, I can tell you this much: if I put a Walbro cover on that carburetor, you're not going to know the difference. They are that close in comparison. I mean, I've set them here on the bench, and I've ran I ran tests on them because sometimes when we port things, we'll port the carburetor as well. And so I've got some tools here that I can measure how much volume comes through that carburetor. Aftermarket are identical to the name brand. They're purely identical. It's all in the quality control on the bench. So the other thing, I'm going to kind of stand up here and you won't be able to see me for a second, but I'll put my little pointer down. Let me turn this thing around. You can kind of see the bottom there. It's all looks authentic. So on the back side, of course, they don't come with this big old organ bar on here. That's separate. We installed that separately for a customer. These are the original dogs that came with it. And now on these dogs, what I do with these, and again, not original screws. These are hardened screws, and then I put lock nuts on the back sides of them. Should be that way on all saws, but sometimes they're not. On these, I don't know if you can see it down here. Kind of. There's, if you've ever had this cover off, you know that there's a little plastic chain guard right here, and then there's one on the top side up here, and it just runs right beside the chain as the chain spins. Those on the original equipment, those are a soft plastic, and these are a hard plastic, which, you know, that's just not a big deal, again, but it's something that you go, oh, well, that's certainly different. Something else, let me turn it this way a little bit. Compression release on here. This is not the original compression release that came with it. I threw that one away, and I put an original one on here. I just didn't like the looks of the compression release that came with it. It just seemed like it was doomed to fail. So, but anyway, I'm trying not to make this too doggone long, and we're creeping up on 20 minutes already. But over here at Papa Saw Shop, this guy goes for a mere $500. That's the build, the parts, the everything. If you're going to buy I've got one right here. This is a 660 that is about to be built, and it is from the reclaim pile. It's about to be refurbished, and this one just sold for $1,000, and so it will be completely tore down and crankshaft replaced. Everything you see will be replaced except for the case. So the clone saw is right at half of what the steel case is. So it all depends on what you're looking for. But if you're looking for a good, sturdy MS660, and you're the kind of person who will handle it gingerly, you know, when you're putting it away, it's probably a good option for you. You know, it starts right up. I mean, when I got the build finished, I mean, 9 times out of 10 they start right up, and boy, that 10th one that doesn't start right up will just kick in the teeth all day long. And these, when you build them, they fire right up. I mean, first pull, done, just goes. So they're good little saws. This one's going to a landscaping company, and so it should make a real good saw for them. And like I say, if you're cutting firewood, firewood cutters seem to be a little harder on their saws, and they get in some tougher places. This may not be a good option for you, but for the price, it's a pretty good bargain saw. So anyway, I hope that kind of gave you a little information on the clone saws, and at the very least, you know what a clone saw is and how we build them over here at Papa Saw Shop. If you'd like to pre-order one, take a look over there at www.papasawshop. I'm sorry, our website is www.papasawshop.com. papashop01.com. And you can pre-order one of these guys, and we'll get you one of these pretty girls in your hands. So anyway, till next time, be careful out there, and happy motoring.